On September 11th, 2001, the world as we knew it changed forever. Destruction and carnage unfolded in ways most of us could not even begin to comprehend. The horror, the terror seemed so surreal as it played out on every TV station around the globe. But for Beth Choi, the day that will forever be known as 9/11, the day that shook the world, unfolded right before her very eyes. Last week, I brought you part 1 of Beth Choi's inspirational tale of strength, determination, and survival. If you've yet to see that video, you'll find it linked in the description below. Hi Beth, I'm so thrilled to have you as a special guest on my channel.
Hi Sharon, thank you so much for having me here today.
In 2008, you were sexually assaulted at knife point in your own home. Your only way out was to jump through a window 3 stories up. You survived 22 broken bones, a severe traumatic brain injury, and 5 weeks in a coma, followed by months of rehabilitation that led you on a journey to winning marathons and being an advocate for other survivors. Prior to this day, you were no stranger to having to fight to survive.
Prior to 2008, I have had my fair share of struggles. I grew up with asthma that left me in the ICU a bunch of times. My lung collapsed, and I was constantly put in an ambulance and rushed to the hospital. I was also right next to the World Trade Center on September 11th.
That day, 9/11, is still so surreal to the whole world. So to have actually been there, I cannot even begin to imagine.
That was a very, very sad and scary time. I was one of those people that was also running far and as fast as I could to get away from everything that had been going on that day.
Where were you working on the day that changed the world forever?
On September 11th, I was working at the New York Mercantile Exchange, which was one of the buildings that was very close to the Twin Towers.
What is your recollection of when the planes went into the building?
We saw the first plane that was burning in one of the buildings. And then we also saw when the second plane hit right from our window. That was a very scary time.
Did you know what was going on? Did you hear it?
After the first plane hit, I called my mom and I told her that I was okay. And then I went over to the window where we could see the burning building. And that's when the second plane hit. And that's when all of us knew it was terrorism.
Can you tell us what it was like in that moment? What was going on around you?
So immediately we were running out of our building, and once we came out of our building, we just saw debris and there were people that were jumping. It was a sight that I will never forget.
Did you know that you had to get the hell out of there? What do you think? You were in shock.
My girlfriend and I, we just ran over to the ferry to get on back over to New Jersey. And we made it back to New Jersey right before the first tower fell. And that's a day that I will never forget.
You actually saw people jump from buildings. It must have seemed so surreal.
I did see people jumping from the buildings because it was either deal with getting burned to death or jump out. The better of 2 awful choices. That was an image that I will never get out of my head. That was pretty devastating to see something like that going on.
Little did you know that one day that you yourself would be confronted with that same feeling of terror. Do you ever ponder the similarities they had to have felt that day?
Sometimes I do think about that, because for me it was either deal with being attacked by someone with a knife who will most likely stab me to death, or jump out of my window and pray that somehow I survive that, because that was the better of 2 evils for me. I did not, no matter what, did not want to deal with this crazy man that's attacking me again. So I definitely can relate to what it's like to have to choose between 2 awful and scary choices.
And I believe you also lost some co-workers that day.
Yes, we did lose some coworkers that day. And one of my coworkers, I was actually on the ferry with that morning, and he had a meeting once a month on Tuesdays in the World Trade Center. And I remember watching him walk past our building towards the World Trade Center that day, and he did not survive. And a bunch of other people, I think there were 8 people total from our company that were killed because they were on the 82nd floor of the North Tower, and they did not survive.
And the horror for every one of you there watching on. It's unbelievable to think.
It was a very surreal feeling.
You managed to escape on the second last ferry that left that day. What was running through your mind as that ferry finally pulled away?
Yes, I was the second to last ferry to get out. And as we were on that ferry leaving and getting away, it was such a sense of relief, but it was also guilt because we saw so many people that were stuck in fires and the ones that were jumping out of the buildings.
For the most of us, we saw it on the television, so cannot even begin to comprehend the fear and chaos.
Like I said, it was a day that I think all of us that were there that day, that we will never forget how traumatizing and scary everything was.
Would it be fair to say that, in a sense, running was your savior that day too?
That's true. Running was my savior that day too. I ran to get away. And that's before I even thought of myself as a runner. But yeah, running has come into play in a lot of parts of my life. 20
years on, you have survived one of the world's most horrific events, a horrendous attack, and you are still smiling and spreading hope and light wherever you can. If you could change anything about the life-changing events of February 2008, anything you yourself could have done differently, what would it be?
If I could change anything on that day, that's hard. That's hard to answer because it was such a traumatic, awful, horrible experience. It's a nightmare that I actually went through. But I feel like I am so strong, and I didn't realize how strong I was, and I've overcome so much, and I feel like now I'm helping others and I have so much to offer. So I can't go back, right? I can't change anything on that day. And do I wish it on anybody ever again, something like that to happen? Of course not. I hope I can now talk to others and help people, prevent situations like what happened to me and just be more aware. And I hope that I can make a difference.
You, without question, do that.
Because of what happened, I am who I am today.
That's the thing. It's molded you into this beautiful, strong, empowering woman. If you are a victim of assault or a traumatic brain injury survivor, you can reach out to Beth on her Instagram page, TBI_runner_Beth. I definitely believe you have survived for a reason, and that reason is to be a ray of light and hope for other survivors. Have you considered writing a book?
Yes, I have thought about writing a book, and I will write a book one day. I haven't yet, but I plan on definitely writing a book.
It's definitely something I'd like to see.
Just about survival, overcoming obstacles, and how to move forward after something so traumatic happens. So one day you will see a book that's written by me.
I look forward to that. You could have surrendered to it all and given up, but you chose to be a warrior of hope for others. If you could give my viewers any advice when life feels too much or they feel they can't go on, what would it be?
If I had any advice to give the viewers, it would be to take it day by day and to never give up. Happiness comes from within you. You can choose to play the victim and be miserable, or learn how to accept and be happy with what you've been given and what you still can do. So appreciate all that you still have and keep trying to stay positive and move forward, because things always get better.
Thank you, Beth. It's been such a pleasure working with you on your story that needs to be told and needs to be heard.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
9/11. Never forget.
When I close my eyes